Very good evening and welcome to this evening edition of US 101's Visual Radio. Bringing you the news, I'm Hashni Pathirana. Let's start off with a look at your headlines.
News First headline.
National Election Commission to meet next week. Chairman RML Ratnayaka hopes to announce the election date after the discussion. Former director of the Institute of National Security Studies, Asangabe Gunasekara, released on bail. An amendment bill to amend the Code of Criminal Procedure published in the Gazette. And in your international headlines, Bangladesh court scraps job quotas after deadly unrest. And in your sports, it's cricket. India went big after racking up their highest T20I total. In your top local story for this hour, former President Maithripala Sirisena said that the purpose of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution was to limit the powers of the executive presidency and reduce the term of the office of the president from 6 to 5 years. President Ranil Wickremesinghe on Friday said that the failure to amend Article 83B of the Constitution was a lapse on the part of Dr. Jayampathy Vikramaratne due to inexperience. President's counsel Dr. Jayampathy Vikramaratne yesterday issued a clarification over a statement made by President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Dr. Vikramaratne expressed a regret that President Ranil Wickremesinghe thought it fit to place the entire blame on him for not reducing the upper limits of the President's and Parliament's terms. Responding to both these statements, former President Maithripala Sirisena stressed that the 19th Amendment was brought in to abolish the 18th Amendment that gives unlimited powers to the executive presidency. As a common candidate at the time, he said the 19th Amendment to the Constitution was to limit the powers of the executive presidency and reduce the term of the office of the president from 6 to 5 years. And in more local news, a special meeting of the National Election Commission will be held on Wednesday or Thursday. Chairman of the Election Commission, RML Ratnayaka, said following the discussion, the date for the presidential election will be announced. Meanwhile, the Cabinet has appointed a special committee chaired by Secretary to the Ministry of Public Security, Viyani Gunathilaka, to oversee the security of the upcoming presidential candidates and former presidents. The committee consists of Chief of Defence Staff General Shavendra Silva, Inspector General of Police Deshabandhu Tennakon, and the Chief of Intelligence and Senior Deputy Inspector General of Police. Secretary to the Ministry of Public Security, Viyani Gunathilaka, said that the former presidents have been informed to appoint a competent officer to coordinate security affairs. Accordingly, former Presidents Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga, Mahinda Rajapaksa, Maithripala Sirisena and Gotabaya Rajapaksa have been notified. The committee will also supervise the security of candidates who will be contesting the upcoming presidential election after submitting their nominations. An amendment bill to amend the Code of Criminal Procedure has been published in the Gazette. The bill proposes an increase in the fine for the offence of bribery in connection with an election to 1 million rupees for the current fine of 500 rupees. The Code of Criminal Procedure Amendment Bill proposes to increase the fine for the offence of bribery by treating 750,000 rupees from 200 rupees. The fine for the offence of unduly influencing an election that currently stands at 500 rupees is proposed to be increased to 100,000 rupees. The fine for the offence of personation at an election that is at 300 rupees now is proposed to be increased to 100,000 rupees. The draft bill also proposes increasing fines for many other offences under the Code of Criminal Procedure. Former director of the Institute of National Security Studies, Asangabe Gunasekara, who was arrested at the Bandaranaike International Airport, has been released on bail. Asangabe Gunasekara was produced before the Negombo Magistrates Court today. He was released on 2 sureties of 1 million rupees each. The case is to be taken up again on the 19th of August. Police said Asanga Begunasekara was arrested pursuant to an open warrant issued in connection with an action initiated by the Department of Inland Revenue. He was handed over to police custody after initially being apprehended by Immigration and Immigration Department officials at the airport. The suspect was arrested while he was returning to Sri Lanka from Doha.
International news.
In international news for this hour, Bangladesh's top court has scrapped most of the quotas on government jobs that has sparked violent clashes across the country that have killed more than 100 people. A third of public sector jobs had been reserved for the relatives of the veterans from the country's war for independence from Pakistan in 1971. But now the court has ruled just 5% of the roles can be reserved for veterans' relatives. Law Minister said he welcomed the verdict, and it is unclear how protesters will respond, with at least one student leader calling for demonstrations to continue. A lawyer for petitioners who wanted the quotas kept in place called the Supreme Court ruling historic and urged calm.
Sports news.
And finally, taking a look at your sports news of this hour, the record of highest number of runs scored by a team in the history of Asia Cup Women's Cricket Tournament was secured by the India women's team today. It was after scoring 201 runs for the loss of 5 wickets in the match against the United Arab Emirates at the Arangiri Dambula International Cricket Stadium. It is also the highest number of runs scored by the Indian women's team in T20 cricket. Captain Harmanpreet Kaur scored 66 runs and Richa Ghosh scored 64 runs. The United Arab Emirates team in the reply innings managed to score only 123 runs for the loss of 7 wickets in the scheduled 20 overs. Accordingly, the Indian women's team won the match by 78 runs. And with that, we wrap up this evening edition's Yes 101 Visual Radio. Bringing you the news, I'm Hashni Patirana. Thank you for watching and good night.